right, welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. In just a little bit, I have Sean Highkin coming on to talk about the Blazers, the wild game they had against the Nuggets on Thursday night, also the rest of the Western Conference. The last couple of days have really given us some great moments like that Blazers-Nuggets finish. We also had a spectacular Warriors meltdown against the Jazz where the Warriors blew a 4-point lead in the final 10 seconds. The Jazz have bounced back. They now have a 15-12 record. In that, when a lot of the top guys set out, which resulted in the game-winning bucket involving Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Simone Fontecchio. Lots of fun. Lots of schadenfreude for me on that one as the Warriors lose in spectacular fashion. We also saw the red-hot Lakers get slowed down. They lost 2 straight games, basically because Anthony Davis got the flu. On Thursday night, we saw Alperen Sengun have one of the greatest dunks ever, but it was wiped away for an offensive foul. This is a play I'm still studying and trying to comprehend. If it's an offensive foul for his off arm, that basically should have negated every Blake Griffin poster of all time, which, by the way, was an argument I made at the time. The Clippers have lost consecutive games. One was with Kawhi, one was without. They go 0-2 in Central Florida, losing to the Heat and the Magic. Self-proclaimed King of New York, Trae Young. He returned to the Hawks and played and got destroyed by the Knicks in MSG. The Hawks have now lost 5 of their last 6 games when Trae Young plays. Trae is shooting 28.9% from 3 on the season, which is basically what Josh Smith shot from 3 when he was on the Hawks. By the way, the Hawks this year are 2-0 when Trae Young doesn't play, and the 2 wins are over the Nuggets and the Bucks. On Friday night, we got a couple of great matchups. You have the Pelicans, who are the 1 seed right now in the West. They are hosting the Suns. You have Rudy Gobert returning to Utah to take on Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Simone Fontecchio. Also, not as prestigious a matchup on paper. The Grizzlies take on the Detroit Pistons on Friday night. If you're in the Nashville, Tennessee area, come to the watch party that we are hosting over at Noble's Beer Hall. That will be at 7 p.m. Also, if you are looking for some holiday gifts, you can skip the mall, avoid the crowds, and warm up with Grizzlies' 6-game holiday packs. You can guarantee the gift of Grizz with these holiday packs. They start at just $26 per game. They feature some of the best matchups and giveaways, including games against the Warriors, Lakers, Mavs, and more. To purchase these 6-game holiday packs, call 901-888-HOOP or shop online at grizzlies.com. All right, now let's bring on Sean and talk about the Blazers. I'm joined right now by Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report. Sean, how's it going?
Doing great, Keith. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Tell people about your Rose Garden Report. That's something you started in the last year, right?
About 6 months ago. I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm still covering the Blazers basically as a beat writer, but I'm doing it independently. Basically the same thing that there are a few other folks doing this with other teams around the league. James Ham is doing it in Sacramento. Scott Agnes is doing it in Indy. There are a couple of others that I'm forgetting, but that's essentially what I'm doing. It's some of the content is free. A lot of it is paywalled. I think I keep the price pretty reasonable, but rosegardenreport.com is where you want to go for that. And the podcast is also of the same name. So that's kind of the very, very nutshell version of it.
Well, perfect, man. Congrats on doing all of that. Before we can get into some Blazers talk, we do have to take care of business up top and to actually talk about your breakfast. A little bit early for you on the West Coast. Have you had a breakfast, or are you planning to have something that you can regale us with?
I literally just went over to the coffee shop across the street and got a donut.
Oh, nice. What kind of donut?
Maple bar.
Oh, very fancy. Portland known for donuts, right?
Yeah. I suppose there's one tourist attraction that is
I know it is fashionable to talk poorly of the voodoo donuts.
I'm not even anti-voodoo. I'm not even
donut.
I'm not even anti-voodoo is the thing. Like, there are some people who are like, oh, I won't even go to voodoo donuts.
Right. I mean, listen, will I stand in line for half an hour? No, I will not.
Well, so here's the thing about that. Like, I've been many times, and they do the thing where they have 2 registers available.
Yeah.
But they only ever have one of them in use because they want the line to be longer so that it looks.
Oh, no. So we have these things in Tennessee. We have these things called pancake pantries. There might be more of them across the world.
I am not familiar.
I think they're basically like Nashville, Gatlinburg, maybe some other places. Then it's like a tourist thing, and they have one of the features is inside. They have a giant, like, basically mountain of butter where you can see in the kitchen. They're just taking the butter off. They're making the pancakes. It's a fun thing to do.
So that's like the gimmick.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's a fun thing to do because, pancakes are pancakes. Like, they're good.
Sure, yeah.
But like, am I going to stand in line for an hour for a pancake? No, I'm not. And so, like, you go there, you might see celebrities. I saw Dominique Wilkins there once at the one in Nashville. But like, I'm not going to stand in line. I'm also basically not going to criticize. It's a pancake. It's good. It's a donut. It's good. That's my official take.
Yeah, voodoo is fine. If I'm near a voodoo and there's not a line and I feel like getting a donut, I'll stop in, but I'm not going to like go out of my way to be like, oh, let's go to Voodoo Donuts, because you can get a donut or something like that pretty much a lot of places.
Yeah. The Portland Trailblazers played an awesome game on Thursday night. Maybe not awesome from a Trailblazers perspective. It was a classic blow after blow coming down the stretch. It looked like it was Dame time, but then Jamal Murray gets the last laugh. It feels like this year so far, we're getting some of that. We're getting legit Dame time, right? Like, I mean, he's playing as good, I think, as people would have hoped he would.
When he's healthy, he's missed a couple of different stints with a little calf strain that I don't think is anything serious, but it's something that he missed a lot of their first big road trip for. And then he was back for like a week. He looked pretty good, and then he re-aggravated it, and he missed another 6-7 games. But he's been back for 2 games now, and so far, he's looked like Dame. The thing I've had to keep telling people coming into the season about the whole thing, and I mean, it's interesting you bring up Jamal Murray was obviously the other guy that was going off kind of on the other side in the game last night. This was the kind of game that I think people had been waiting to see from Jamal Murray for a long time. And over the first month or so of the season, he's been looking kind of up and down, and he's been rusty because he missed a whole season coming off of a torn ACL. The injury that Dame missed most of last season with was a little abdomen thing that was a 6-week recovery that he could have played on last year at the end of the year if there was any reason for them to play, if they weren't tanking, basically. And so the thing I've had to tell people first of all, when he signed that extension and it's like, oh, well, is he going to be able to stay healthy? I have had to keep telling people, like, look, it's not like he's coming off a torn ACL or a torn Achilles or some kind of long-term leg injury like that. He's going to be fine. He's going to be Dame. And so far, that's what we've seen.
Yeah, I think my question for Dame, which it is, yes, it's minor injury, quote unquote minor injuries, but when you combine those, whatever, soft tissue injuries, core injuries, with his age, then you start asking the questions. Because like, I'm looking at the Blazers right now, and I think they're 8-3 when Dame plays over 30 minutes. But like, should Dame be playing as much as because he normally averages like 35, 36, like, can he handle those rigors, even if it wasn't a serious injury he's coming back from? Like, should they find a way maybe to get him closer to 30 minutes per game as opposed to like these heavy Dame minutes that we're accustomed to?
I think they'd like him. They'd like him to play less. I think he would probably like to have his minutes be maybe in the low 30s as opposed to the mid 30s. And that's something that Chauncey has talked about, is like, they don't want him to play 40 minutes a game, but they've just been so, even besides Dame, like, I could go up and down the rotation if you wanted. Every single player that plays meaningful minutes for them has missed at least one game at some point this season with something. Like, Josh Hart has missed a couple of games with an ankle thing. He's like kind of outside of Anfernee Simons, he's kind of their only other, real reliable ball handler. Keon Johnson, who just came back last night and has looked pretty good at times when he's played. He was kind of a throw in that Clippers, the Robert Covington, Norm
I
Powell
thought
trade.
he was the crown jewel of that trade. What was, if not Keon Johnson, what was the thing you circle for in that? Wasn't like Covington for like a second and Keon Johnson? Refresh me.
Justice Winslow, they really liked.
Oh, Justice Winslow.
And he's been really
and
he's been pretty good for them this year. And then that was the whole thing. But like he's a guy that he's been pretty good when he's played. He just missed a month with a hip injury, but that's another guy who can take some ball handling responsibilities away from Dame, just playing some spot minutes, and he's now finally back healthy. Theoretically, Gary Payton II is going to be back at some point soon. Like, he's been ramping it up in practice. He hasn't played yet this season. He's been dealing with actually the same core muscle surgery that Dame had last year. He had that same surgery over the summer. So they've just been so banged up that Dame has kind of had to play more. But I think long-term, that's something they would like to cut down on a little bit.
If they're basically all healthy, if they can avoid any major injury, where do you see them right now in this Western Conference hierarchy? Like, do you think they're like in a tier right beneath, maybe like Suns and my Grizzlies and Nuggets, maybe, or like, are they battling with Kings, Jazz? Where do you put the Blazers when healthy?
If they're healthy enough, like, basically what that means is Dame healthy, because he's the key to everything. I think they're top 6.
Yeah.
I came into the season thinking they were going to be playing, and then after the first 2 weeks of the season, when they started off 10-4, I wasn't thinking, oh, they're a title contender now, but I was thinking, I think they can avoid the play-in, and I kind of still believe that. Also, a couple things go into that. I mean, you're talking about this is independent of how good I think they can be in the playoffs, which I do think they're a tier below the Phoenix, Denver, Golden State, whoever you want to put in like the top tier of Western Conference contenders. And there's no Golden State like this. There's no, like, if you look at the East, it's Milwaukee and Boston, and then a huge gap, and then everybody else. There's nobody that's really running away with it like that in the West this year. But I would put Portland kind of in that second group, where I think they'll be in the top 6 and avoid the play-in. And the couple things to keep in mind here, just about their schedule. One, at the end of, they've had an insanely road-heavy schedule so far this year. At the end of December, at the end of the calendar year of 2022, they will have played 21 road games, which is over half of their road schedule for the season. Wow. They're home for basically the entire month of January. And then the other thing is, a lot of the games that they've been playing so far have been against good teams. And that was what was so impressive about that early start, because it's not like they were just like getting a cakewalk schedule. Like, they beat Phoenix twice, they beat Denver, they beat Miami. I guess Miami's not actually that good, but people kind of thought they were at the time. They beat New Orleans in New Orleans on a back-to-back. Like they've beaten good teams when they've played them, generally speaking. And their schedule, like, basically since like post All-Star, their schedule is like a lot of Houston, a lot of San Antonio, a lot of these types of teams that we are kind of expecting to be tanking. So what I always said going into the season, once their schedule came out, is that if they could get to Christmas at 500, that they're fine, because the second half of their schedule is so much softer than the first half of it. And I think they're in good shape to do that. So I think they'll be top 6.
That's interesting. So if it's top 6, and I had seen that stuff, how the Blazers have played the toughest schedule in the NBA so far. I've seen that a few different publications have had their own little formulas for that. If they are top 6, which are you putting them ahead of, like, let's go and say we assume they're going to finish with more wins than like the Jazz. Like,
yes.
Where do you think they compare to like the Timberwolves, Kings, Clippers, Mavericks? You have them ahead of all those? Because you kind of would need to. Yeah, all right.
The only question mark out of those, I think, is Dallas, just because I mean I mean, it's the same thing that we've been saying about Dame for however many years. Like, and I think that Portland has significantly more talent around Dame than Dallas has around Luka, but Luka's so good. You have to give them. That's the thing. Like, you have to.
Yep.
The same stuff we were saying about Dame, where it's like, if you have a healthy Dame, it's a 45-win team by itself. Like, you have to kind of put Luka in that category or more at this point. But you go down those other teams, I don't trust anything at all about Minnesota. And like once Cat comes back, they're going to still then have to figure out that fit. And it's almost looked like they've been better with that. And I'm actually going to see the Timberwolves the next couple of days because they have 2 games in a row here in Portland tomorrow and what is tomorrow? Saturday. So tomorrow and Monday. So so I'm actually going to get to see them, but I don't trust them at all. The Clippers, I need to see Kawhi be healthy consistently for half a season before I buy into anything about them.
Yeah, I don't think the Clippers are going to have a very strong regular season finish. No. That's interesting that you get the Trailblazers and Timberwolves. Those are, I mean, it's December, but those are big games.
They are.
Those are huge games for avoiding the play-in and just the Western Conference playoff picture.
And that's what I was saying about their schedule. Because they're getting a lot of like. They've played Denver twice. They play Denver again right before Christmas in Denver. They will have done 3 of their 4 games against Denver, which is easily their best division rival. So like that's already going to decide like the tiebreaker stuff. They've already played Phoenix all the times they're going to play them this season. They've got Dallas like another 2 times in the next month. Like they're going to get all of their games against the other pretty much. I think they have New Orleans a couple times late in the season. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but they pretty much get most of their games against the teams that you need to play and you need to beat out of the way in the first half of the season. And then the second half of the season is a whole lot of games against teams that are going to be going for victor at that point that I theoretically take advantage of.
Yeah. Outside of Dame, who do you think is the most important player on the roster?
That's on the roster right now. That not necessarily that I expect to be there after the deadline, but as the roster is constituted right now, Yusuf Nurkic.
Because you think Nurkic is more important just because of the scarcity of the positional scarcity?
Well, but it's also just he's the most, night to night. You don't like he was phenomenal, I thought, last night against Denver. Like
he gets it going against Jokic. That's
yes, yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
Well, right, because he played there at the beginning of his career and because of their relationship, whatever. He gets up for that, and there have been other games this season where he's looked very, very good, and then there are other games where he does not, and like lately, it's been I think more of that this season than the former. And the reason I say that it's the most important is either they get that Nurkic every night or they do something maybe in February to upgrade that spot.
What would they do? What are the centers they've circled? Are they going to get in that Miles Turner pursuit or something?
That's something.
That's the one.
I think that and Pirtle are the 2 that they're going to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think if San Antonio lowered their price on Pirtle a little bit, they could get that out the door. But
these teams always lower their prices on right now, the Pacers are putting out this we might not even trade Turner. We're better than expected. We might not even trade him. We might expect. Yeah, okay, all right, cool.
Well, I mean, what Pacers are in the home court advantage fight right now in the East.
Yeah, Utah was a month ago. So
what's your thought on, or how has your opinion changed of Jerami Grant this season? I just want to say personally, I was more of a skeptic for what he did in Detroit offensively, and now on the Blazers doing it in more of a winning situation. I feel like he's been fantastic. But has your opinion evolved on Jerami Grant this season?
Well, he's been great. I mean, the thing about his situation here is that he's found pretty much the exact perfect amount of responsibility and the perfect role, because if you look at in Denver, and this is maybe one of the reasons, there was other reasons that were documented, but one of the reasons I think that he left Denver was because I think he felt like he was taking a little bit too much of a supporting role and too much of a step back, and maybe he wasn't able to do as much or able to do enough of what he felt like he was capable of. And then he goes to Detroit, where he's clearly the featured guy and clearly the number 1 option on a team that wasn't winning anything. And he was just like a guy, he's, a 20, 25, whatever point a game scorer on a bad team. And he maybe had too much responsibility there because, he can get his numbers if he's the featured guy, but you're not going to win anything with him as your featured guy every single night. And that kind of what was shown in Detroit. Now he's in a situation in Portland where he's coming in. Everybody knows it's Dame's show, so he's not going to be the number 1 guy most nights. I mean, he has been a few of these games because Dame's been out. But if you need him to do that from time to time, he's had a 45, 46. I forget what he had in the Knicks game, but he's had that. He can do that. And what the Blazers need from him is A, to be good defensively, and B, to be able to do that from time to time on offense when teams, either Dame doesn't have it going, Dame's out, Simons doesn't have it going, whatever the case may be. And he's been able to do that. And it's just been exactly the kind of fit that I think Dame thought when Dame really connected with him last summer at the Olympics in Tokyo and started kind of thinking, hey, this is a guy I'd like to play with. It's kind of worked out about as well as he envisioned it.
Yeah, I mean, I've again, maybe I was just too much of a skeptic, but I've been really impressed with him this year. Also, some of his numbers, like we're going to assume he's not going to shoot 45% from three all year, but he's been like 22 points per game on his splits are incredible. And that's
when you're playing next to Dame, you're going to get a lot of open looks. And I don't think he's not the thing. It's not like he's like taking difficult shots that he's not taking Dame shots. He's getting open catch and shoot looks and he's knocking them down. I don't see any reason why that's not. Yeah, I mean,
that's a good point.
Maybe it won't be 45. Maybe it'll drop a little bit, but because it was like 48 a couple weeks ago and it dropped down a little bit. But like the kinds of looks he's getting are looks that most competent shooters you would think would be able to knock down. It's just kind of what I was saying before. When you're in Detroit and you're the guy and you're the featured guy that other defenses are going to key in on, you're not going to get those kinds of looks. You're playing next to Damian Lillard and Anfernee Simons, or two guys that basically people have to double team. You're going to get a lot of wide open looks, and he's making them.
Who's more important to the Blazers' future, Anfernee Simons or Shaedon Sharpe?
Shaedon Sharpe.
Why is defend your answer, please?
I mean, I think Simons has been really, really good.
Yeah,
and he's I think so. I mean, he had a rough kind of first couple of weeks of the season, but and he actually wasn't very good last night. That was kind of an off night for him. But by and large, he's been lights out the last couple of weeks. And he's still very young. And he's still like, I think that, and this is why they took Shaedon Sharpe overall, like 7th overall, despite the, nobody really knowing anything about him, was because they felt like that was the type of upside that he had, was like, this guy could be like a future, multi-time all-star superstar. Like what, and once Dame ages out of that role, I think they view him as that kind of talent. And I think early on, he's been up and down like every rookie has, but you're kind of seeing what they saw in him so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly making those spectacular highlight plays, but like they already, like, you have confidence that this guy, is one of those untouchable already in trades, because you want to see that he could develop, and he seems like he's on the right path.
I would be shocked if he was involved.
I'm not saying they would trade him, this year, obviously, but you're already encouraged enough where you're like, Anfernee Simons, good scorer, young guy, don't know what his ceiling is. Maybe it's like fringe all-star on a really good team, or on a team that like wins a bunch of games as a scorer, but like you'd rather build your program around the hope of Shaedon Sharpe fully developing.
Well, I don't think either one of them is going to be on the block anytime soon, but I think just because of the age and because of the I think the two-way potential is the other part, because I think Shaedon still gets lost a lot on defense, but I think he's shown some, instincts and ability on that, and maybe I don't know. I hate these questions because neither of these guys are getting traded.
And well, I'm not suggesting either one's getting traded. I'm just trying to figure out, just valuing Shaedon Sharpe, like not even in like just how good each one is. And like, if you're, maybe I phrased or framed it incorrectly. I'm just trying to get an idea of,
I hear you.
Who you think is the better prospect.
I hear you. I know that they're very, very high on Shaedon Sharpe.
Yeah. Which makes sense. But let's close with give me the Reader's Digest version again of the weird ownership situation that's going on right now with the Blazers that kind of hangs over all things in Portland, where Jody Allen is supposed to sell the team. She's legally required to, but isn't really doing it or something.
I don't know what the timeline is. There is in the Paul Allen Trust that went into effect when he passed away in 2018. All of his assets do have to be sold at some point. I don't know if there's I haven't obviously seen the trust. I haven't read. I'm not Paul Allen's lawyer. I have not read the trust. I have not seen the trust. I don't know what the timeline is. I don't know whether there's a sell by date. So I don't I think the last time you and I talked about it was like right when all the Phil Knight stuff was happening. I don't think there's been anything new happening, and I think that it's going to get held up by what's going on with the Suns with Robert Sarver, because since he's selling the team, he's selling the Suns. Like he's put the Suns up for sale allegedly.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think, in the league is kind of waiting to see. Well, first of all, I think a lot of people are waiting on like what the number comes in at on the new TV deal, and then this new CBA getting done, maybe expansion, whatever. Like that's what I think Jody's trying to hang on for. But I think more than that, everybody, and not even just her, but like anybody else who might be looking to sell, their team, everybody's waiting to see what the Suns are going to go for, because that's going to reset. Like the rumor is that they might go for like 3.5 or 4 billion.
Woo.
And if that happens, that's going to be like when Steve Ballmer went so far over the top in the price for the Clippers in 2014 that it completely resets the market for everybody else. And then a couple of years later, the Rockets are getting sold for 2 billion. And now like the Utah Jazz and the Minnesota Timberwolves are each going for 1.5, 1.6. So I think that any other team sales are probably at least a little bit on hold until everybody sees what the Suns go for. That would be my guess on it right now.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate it, Sean. Always a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Keith.